Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Marvel's Strike Force. Now, today we're going to be talking about something that's, I think, very typical Boilon, and I know I'm going to get some flack for saying what I'm here to say today, and that is that if you haven't already, stop what you're doing and do not build Nova. There's a lot of practical reasons why you shouldn't. And I'm going to talk about my regrets from building him. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack in the comments because a lot of people know my position on Nowhere in general, which I have said many times that it's a team not worth building, and I still stand by that. But Nova specifically, I did build. And actually, I advocated for a little while, anyways, that you should build him. And now I'm not, because there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't. Namely, this, and I'm going to bring this up before we get to the intro. I couldn't show you the teal version because I have 0 of them because of upgrading Nightcrawler recently. And so if you look at this list of characters, there's a shit ton of characters that need osmium, and Nova is nowhere near a priority on this list. We're going to be talking about these characters in specifically, why you don't really need Nova for the things that you probably think that you need Nova for, and more. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. So let's bring this back to Nova a little bit. And I want to start here. Now, I think this is sad and a little bit embarrassing because, not for me, just for him, because I think this is probably the quickest that I would ever say a legendary character is not obsolete, but not necessary. And I don't think in the history of legendaries in the Horseman era that I ever said that you didn't. That you, I mean, obviously you need them from Apocalypse, and now that I think that well, Mephisto is a Dark Dimension character, that we don't technically need the teams from the trial legendaries, and if you don't want to build them or for whatever other reason, you don't have to do that. Now, where did we need Nowhere and Nova originally? Well, you needed Nova and the team to do the Black Cat trials, the second trial legendary. And so Nova being the first one, of course, because the options were Nowhere or Sinister Six. Now, we know now, especially by the second time of Black Cat, that, we had the Green Goblin trial, which is a Sinister Six legendary, alongside the Sinister Six rework, which was utterly amazing. I think nobody's going to say that was a bad patch. It was a great patch. I had a lot of fun. The characters were amazing. And so when that happened, I was still able, even though I had a mishmash of characters. I did not level up my Nowhere. In fact, I'll prove it to you. And this is not a video about Nowhere. This is a video about Nova, but just to kind of show you guys that I do have Korg, Star-Lord Annihilation, and Thor Infinity War all at level 1. Because the team did not provide any real value that I missed out on. There was absolutely no need. Everything else that I'm doing in the game, I don't need the team, and I don't need Nova now. And Nova was a little bit of a disappointment in the places that I used him. There was some value at the time, in the first run of Black Cat. And I'll admit that if I didn't have him upgraded, I don't know how high I had him, like G16, G17 maybe. He wasn't G18 for sure. And I would not have got my 6-star Black Cat that I did difficulty 7 or 8. I forget now. But I did get a 6-star Black Cat. And I used it outside the team. I used Nova and a little bit of Cosmo. It was like 100k or something. And then Doc Ock, Electro, and Swarm. My videos are out there. You can go watch it. And so I had some value then. And then I did bring Nova into Dark Dimension 6. And I was really disappointed because, and I'm sure all of you can attest, anyone who has Skrull and used Nova, you could probably attest that I'm right. That basically Nova would use his abilities on cooldown. He would use his abilities and then they'd be on cooldown, and you'd maybe not even get to use it again that entire legendary section because the legendary section was so easy. Like whether it was the non-horseman section, the first 2 or the last 2, all 4 of the nodes were very easy. If you took Doc Ock and Green Goblin and Apocalypse, they just wrecked everything. It didn't really matter. And then you'd probably use Black Cat, and a lot of people used Omega Red. And so that was a big thing. And so as far as what you would use going forward, so if you're looking into going into Dark Dimension 6 now, I would avoid picking Nova in there if you can. The problem is that there's not a really great alternative until the next trial, the fourth trial character, who is probably most likely going to be a skill raid character. And that's probably going to be the character that you're going to want to take instead of Nova, just because you're going to be using them in raids all the time, and therefore there's value there. And I think that you'd want to do that. But Nova just has a really, really rough competing unique that I haven't seen such a problem in unique since I want to say Alien Spores or Miasma. For those of you veterans out there who know that those uniques are some of the worst ones in the game, or historically were the worst ones in the game because of so many amazing characters. And when you look at the list of characters that are available for Osmium compared to, Nova, where is Nova in this ranking? He's pretty low on the list, and like I'm always like still clutching for osmium that I can't even upgrade some of these characters that I want to upgrade. Iron Man Infinity War is stuck at G15. I can't even think of putting osmium on him. I don't spend, right? So if you spend on uniques, all the power to you. But it's really hard, especially for free to play players, to come up with enough osmium for each of these characters to G18 or even G17 in the example of Morgan Le Fay. So there's 7 characters here, and I'm going to rank them, in my opinion, from highest to lowest priority right now. And I would actually say the highest priority is probably Nightcrawler. I think that if you want to do well in the upcoming, I say upcoming because the team isn't fully out yet, free to play, but Nightcrawler is going to be needed, and you're going to want to have him to gear tier 18. Second priority probably would be Gambit for the exact same reason, because in my opinion, the most important roster to build, the game modes to build for would be Arena first, then Raids, then Crucible, then War, in my opinion. So Nova being not only a war character, but also for a war team, he doesn't really have any amazing value in Crucible. I'm not going to say he's useless, but compared to a lot of other characters even on this list here, you just don't need to build him anymore. And it's sad because I don't think he's even been out like 8 months. And I have never said this about any legendary character, and he has a battlefield effect. And so I, I guess that in itself gives him a little bit of value. And I wish I could, and I'm sure there's room to theory craft around him. Just as far as a priority for this osmium out of this list of characters, it's just not Nova. So I do have to say that Nightcrawler and Gambit are the top 2 priorities for osmium. After that, I would probably say it's Vol, who again uses osmium, a great character that you're going to be using in not only for the Bifrost raid team, when you're building that, but also for Dark Dimension 6 Cosmic. I think it's still a very solid choice. I think a lot of people took Vol. I have no regrets on Vol, and really happy with Vol and what I did in Dark Dimension 6 with that. So that would be the third thing. Now, of course, if you're thinking about building Big Apocalypse, if you have assuming you have Morgan Le Fay, because I know that she's not available for a lot of players, so that's a big issue too. But Morgan Le Fay has to be on that list too, at least to gear 17. So you're going to need 40 teal osmium. And maybe you have an issue with orange osmium. Like I only have 60. So luckily I'm through the orange stage for all of these characters now. So that's good. So I don't need any more of that. But in terms of teal, I literally have 0 as of recording this video. I just recently upgraded Nightcrawler to gear tier 18. That was great. And then as far as these other characters go, I don't know. I'm going to be like, I'm hoping that more osmium characters don't come out at this point. I hope this is it for a while. But I don't know, right? And so I'll have to wait until February, I guess, when the new cast of characters for that patch comes out, whether or not I want to put any more gear into Ronin or Iron Man Infinity War. Maybe Ronin, I don't know, because New Avengers is going to be farmable. Or sorry, should be farmable by the time this video goes out. And so who would be after Vol? And then so like I said, Morgan Le Fay 4th. And then even when you get to 5th choice for Osmium, I'm not even sure it's still Nova at this point, right? Like I would probably honestly, with Ronin and Iron Man Infinity War soon to be farmable, Iron Man specifically, because he'll be farmable in a short while too. I honestly think that both of these are better to put your gear into than Nova. And I think that Nova is the last person on this list for the uniques, in my opinion. And it is terrible. But, if you've ever tried to kind of collect uniques, you know that it takes a while, right? And if you want to go to gear tier 18, you need 65. It's a lot, right? 18 plus 22 plus 25. So you need 65 uniques for a single character. There's at least 3 characters on this list that need to be gear 18, which is going to be Nightcrawler, Gambit, and Vol. And then you need another character at gear tier 17. And we're already talking about 200 plus osmium if you haven't gotten started. So who is this video aimed at? Maybe I should have mentioned this in the beginning. It's going to be for those early and mid game players who have Nova but are on the fence about building them. And now that Nightcrawler is out, especially, I don't think that you should. And you should stay very far away from Nova. And I think you should stay very far away from the Nowhere team as an extension. Because obviously, if you don't have Nova built, then there's no point in building Nowhere, right? Because he's like the leader of the team, and everything that you need for that team is around him. I actually I kind of regret this. I really don't feel that I've got as much value out of Nova as I have like any other legendary in the past 2 years. It is unfortunate, and I know that I'm just like sitting here dunking on Nova, but I hope, and I strongly believe this to be true, that I'm right about this, because it's just that I can't in good conscience tell people that this is a good idea. When you're looking at these characters, I mean, come on. Let's be real. Please be real with me. I don't want some comments in the bottom saying that I'm dead wrong because he's more important than these other characters. He's just not, right? Like, I don't know how you can justify this unless you're in a hardcore war alliance, and even then, it's really hard to justify, in my opinion. And it's just a matter of time, honestly. And I would probably just take someone else, even for Dark Dimension 6. If you're coming up on Dark Dimension 6 Legendary, it depends. Like, if you've already chucked your osmium into him and you're like gear 17, then I guess what's another 25? But really at this point, 25 is still a lot. And in the grand scheme of things, with those other characters that I mentioned, it's going to take you a while to get them. Let me tell you that to get my Nightcrawler from 17 to 18, it took me a long time. And because it's still here, I think it's in the back of the milestones, because I think the event might still be there, from the Frosty Family Gathering. Scopely were assholes, and they did not give us any osmium in this event for Nightcrawler. So that made it even harder to gear him, and I just got around to finishing this now. Because I was really struggling, and I was honestly refreshing the event store, the December event store, to try to get, and I never did. I wasted a lot of course doing that, but I was trying to get the 5x osmium from the event store because I was just so desperate on this. So if you were able to pick up a lot of osmium and you got an excess, congratulations, you can go do Nova. But otherwise, I just really would stay away from this, and I'd caution people from doing this because there's just so many better options on the horizon, especially with some of them being farmable soon, like Ronin and Iron Man Infinity War, where you're going to get some better value out of the stats from them. And I think that they're actually pretty good teams. Teams that you're going to kind of need to, maybe you don't have to build new Avengers, but you kind of do need to build Pegasus. So at the very least, you'll be able to get some more value out of Iron Man there. And Pegasus isn't that bad of an offense team, in my opinion. So Nova is just out to lunch, in my opinion. It's sad. It's really sad, because it's the only legendary that I can think of that in this short of a time span, that not only have I believe that you should not build them, but there's just so many other characters better because the unique is just so coveted. Let me know in the comments down below. Maybe I'm crazy. I've been told that too, but I hope that some of you follow this advice because I think it's really important. So that's the end of this. And until next time, stay safe and healthy. And I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.